This episode of Warchant is sponsored by McMahon Cove Gilly. You can find them on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
I started out, I'm going to come clean. Arab, 9th grade year, end of the game, we're trying to run the clock out. You called 28 boot, and you told me to tell Jeremy, do not throw the football, roll out, run the clock, go down. The game's over, we're up. I forgot what you said, so I ran the play and I told Jeremy, Sam said, roll out. If I'm not open, go down. But if I'm open, I'm your only look. Don't look around. We don't want to throw a pick. If I'm not open, eat it. Jeremy rolled out. I was wide open. He threw me a touchdown pass. I think his time expired or there was like 3 seconds left. And we came off the field, and you were hella pissed. And Jeremy had no idea why. He was like, my God, I threw a You was like, why'd you throw the football? He just looked at me, and I just kept going. It was between y'all. And I've been carrying it around with me for years. I just need to get that out.
I knew you didn't forget. I knew you went out there and said, Coach said throw the ball to me.
Well, that's the last year I was going to touch the football, so I had to hurry up and get my touches in as a fullback.
That was a learning experience that year was. First year being in charge, that was quite an experience. But
we played some good teams that year.
We did. We played
Athens, Fort Payne.
Athens, the three. I think 3 of them at Athens for sure. I think the Vickers kid went on and played. I think he signed at Auburn, and I think he wound up at UNA maybe. And then they had
Vincent Scales.
Yeah, Scales wound up at UNA.
One of them ran a kickoff back against us in that 9th grade game, and they laid 4 of us out.
Was Rivers not playing on that 9th grade team?
No, he would have been in the 8th grade.
But he'd been in 8th grade.
He might have been playing on that 9th grade.
Yeah, I'm sure they'd let him play.
Well, I remember the Scales kid broke a run. He put a move on me, and it was it was all I could do. He took off after the game. Daddy walks up. He said, why didn't you kiss him? I said, what are you talking about? He said, why didn't you kiss him? I said, what are you talking about? He said, you hugged that boy. Why didn't you kiss him? I said, I never touched him. But I can remember, we talked about this. I don't know if this was one that we got on film or not, but we talked about Vickers. He was committed to Auburn. He's a really baseball player. But he caught a fair catch, or he didn't call a fair catch on a punt. Ray hit him. He spun off. Well, I ended up kind of cleaning him up, getting him down. He got up and started limping. I was like, Vickers was limping. And they brought Scales in.
Yeah.
And Scales went for over 200, I think, that night on us. But he was the difference maker.
We were talking about Phillip Rivers. I said, our senior year, we got him on the recruiting radar.
Oh, it's a highlight.
But Alabama and Auburn only wanted him as a tight end then. The next year, they got him a job as quarterback.
Yeah, I think on y'all's podcast when y'all talked about that, I think y'all misquoted. Because y'all said he got hit 18 times. I believe it's a lot more than that. I believe he got hit a lot more than 18 times.
I could still see that run like it happened.
I had forgotten about his kicking onside kick and him taking it to the
I had forgot that, and them Big Red.
It's even worse when you watch him in the NFL and everybody talks about how he can't run, and I'm just like, well, he used to could. We had him.
He could go decent when he was 17.
We've North Texas had some killer opponents over the years. I mean, if you went top to bottom and did an all-time team of opponents we played against, who's some of the best y'all can remember?
I mean, I think you got to start with that generation right there. It was my freshman year. I mean, I didn't get to play a lot or hardly any at all other than extra point team. But I know you guys talked about it. You got Phillip Rivers, Carnell Williams. I mean, my goodness. It's hard to get much better than that. I mean, Rivers just retired, a year ago or something like 2 years ago.
He'll be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I mean, he really will. I don't think he ever got to go to the Super Bowl or anything, but my goodness, what a career.
Well, and Carnell Williams, I want to say it's his cleats are in the Hall of Fame because he had the record for the most rushing yards to start an NFL career, like the first 4 or 5 games. I can't remember what it was, but it's kind of an oddball stat, but they kept it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was one of those deals they thought enough of it to put his cleats in the Hall of Fame.
I remember being on the sideline that year and just getting to watch Phillip Rivers and
it's Coach Lowry's cat.
Yeah, really. he never shut up the whole game, and it wasn't that he was mouthing to anybody. He was coaching out there. And it was amazing. Like, not only was he out there just playing his guts out, I mean, he was just, they had him at free safety, and he was just, hey, you're here, you're there. I mean, that guy he was fun.
I can remember our senior year, which would have been his junior year. We were going through, adjustments and this and that, talking about it. And Coach Law was talking about, this quarterback, this Rivers kid, he ain't bad, but he ain't that great. So he's a coach's son, so they're going to build him up and this and that. And next thing you know, he's at NC State, but he ended up being pretty dang good.
Yeah,
his throwing motion was all that cost him, I think. With all the big SEC schools, they were talking about a little sidearm throw.
Sure, really ended up costing him.
Had a way to battle through it.
Yeah.
Who was the big dude from Pepperell?
Brian Smith.
He's a girl man.
48. And I don't remember the guy's name, but so when we played them my senior year, he got hurt real early.
He did.
And the guy that come in behind him rushed for over 200 yards. And I don't remember his name. But, I mean, he wasn't as big, but he was probably just as good.
Right.
He was tough. Man, that's the best team that I ever played, counting all of the games the year before that. That Pepperell team that we played my senior year is the best team that I ever stepped on the field with.
I don't know if it was your senior year or if it was your junior year. When I guess it had to be your junior year if Brian Smith got hurt when you was a senior. We walked 11 up in the box.
Well, I
played
him my senior year, and then they played him the year after.
I don't remember which year it was, but I know that Brian Smith was the running back, and they was trying to run the clock out. And we had 11 guys within 2 yards of the line of scrimmage, and they was running off tackle, and we had no shot.
That was probably the 9-6 game the following year over there.
There was nothing we could
run it in for a touchdown. That was on the score we had that game.
There was nothing we could do. I mean, we had all 11 up. I remember thinking, geez, this is unreal that we got 11 guys up there within 2 yards, and they were still getting 3 yards every time. So, every 3 plays.
I still remember watching them come off the hill or coming off to come on the field, and when they came out of the field, they just kept coming, and our guys ended up getting pushed back towards the goal line. They went across the 50 to stretch, and I was like, oh, my God, this is a college.
I think the best guy I ever seen play, and he never went anywhere, never did anything, but I think it's the best guy we ever played against, in my opinion, and is Billy Stover.
Man, that name
I knew that's where he was going with that.
We got to look him up. He's been mentioned on this show 1,000 times.
He's on Facebook. I looked him up.
Between him and Terry Collier, those are the surprise names, which, I mean, I'm not surprised by Terry Collier, but I think, it caught you off guard about how big of a contributor he was when he came.
Well, I think somebody said that Stover ended up dropping out of school.
He did.
Yeah.
He just
the day after football season was over, I had a lady that she come to school doing some kind of audit or something one day, and she and I got to talking, and she had been in Lawrence County teaching, and she asked her where she was from, and she told me, and we started talking, and I said, that's one of the best high school football players I've ever seen from Lawrence County. She said, his name was Billy Stover, wasn't it? Yes, ma'am, it was. And she said as soon as football season was over, his senior year, he quit. He was unreal.
I think Terry did the same thing.
Yeah.
I believe.
Well, I can remember we were in middle school because that would have been y'all's junior or senior year because he wasn't able to play his senior year. And I can remember Stacy talking about y'all sitting there talking him into at least staying in school. He didn't do it.
I think one thing that I think separated Terry from anybody else that I seen run here is Terry never got hit hard in the chest, in the mouth, because he never allowed himself to get hit like that. He never, most time if you're a running back, and y'all all seen it, you're going to take a shot. I mean, somebody's going to get you.
Happens, right?
Terry, I don't know that Terry ever really got just straight up hit right in the mouth because he never allowed himself to get in a situation where he put his body where he could.
And that says something considering that he played fullback.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
he had a belly. It wasn't like Terry was just about 240 pounds
He did a
chisel.
baseball too. Left-handed.
Yes, sir.
What's crazy is all of the stories that I hear about Terry. I've heard a lot of good football stories about Terry, but I've probably, if you just count them all, I've probably heard more baseball stories about Terry than I have football. Just how good he was from from just as a little kid growing up. All the way
I remember it was a foul ball. They were playing up at Jasper, and Terry Cower hit a foul ball at Jasper. Oh my God! Down there, I mean, it's one of the hardest hit baseballs I've ever seen in my life, and it was a foul ball, and people were talking about it after the game, like. People from the other side, like, my God, did you see that boy hit? Was you here when he hit that ball? Like, he absolutely got every bit of it.
He was just athletic. He was just athletic. I mean, he was good at everything.
He was that pitcher that nobody could hit.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
Was he left-handed? Is that what?
Yeah, he was left-handed.
Yeah. That's what somebody had told me.
And he let go of the ball real high.
Yeah.
And it was like it was coming down at an angle. Plus, it was left-handed too. I mean, it was hard to hit.
Did Kenny Smith play baseball?
I think he did.
Yeah, I think he did.
Maybe
a little.
Maybe a little. I don't know that he finished the season.
He was getting ready for his softball career.
Speaking of baseball, if anybody's got a good baseball story they want to tell, Ryan, if you got one.
I don't have any.
If anybody's got one, boy, that's a doozy right there. That's a dandy. Just leave that out there.
I will say this about that, about the Lawrence County. That was 2000, I believe.
Yep. I was in 8th grade, so yeah, it was
2000 Lawrence County team with Stover as a running back. I think they had a tight end that ended up playing for the Titans. Mm-hmm. And I will say that, and I think all of us have stories, and I think it's part of our name. Part of North Jackson is beating those teams that you had no chance on the field with, and maybe not even beating them, but when they got on the bus, if they happened to get out of there with a win, it was, man,
earn the respect.
We got out of here tonight with a win. And that was the first year that Coach Rosie came, my sophomore year, and we won a lot of games after that. Won a lot of games that year, won a lot of games after that, and I don't think we beat anybody that was better than that team, And I will say this, while Coach Houston's here, we thought, what week? Does anybody know? Do you know what week that was?
It was probably week 8.
Yeah, week 8.
Because we had to play West Limestone the next week.
Have we already got beat by Guntersville?
Yeah.
All right, so we'd already gotten beat by Guntersville. We just went through the worst spring training that the law would allow. 15 days in a row, not counting the weekends. But we went, that was when you had 20 days to get 15 in. We went 15 days in a row, full pads, just fighting every day pretty much. And then went through 4 games that we'd won, got beat by Guntersville, won a couple more. So we spent until week 8 of that season thinking that every coach that we had hated our guts. And they didn't, but we thought they did, and that was the first night I remember, and everybody that was in that locker room that night remembers that pregame speech. Coach had a 59-cent notepad. I don't even know how he could read it. It was this big, and he just had everybody's name, written down that had just went through all that we'd went through. And just and it made you feel like, oh man, these people really do like me. Maybe we're not that bad.
Right.
Maybe we can play a little bit. And we went out there, and I mean, seriously, it was one of the most physical games I'd ever played in. And after that, it was one of the most rewarding games that I'd ever played in. Like, we knew how good they were, and it took all 11 of us. Every snap. Like, you go back and watch the film, and I don't think anybody – I mean, there may be 2 plays in the game where 1 or 2 people bring him down, but the rest of them, it took all of us because this guy was breaking time. I mean, he was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I took a buddy of mine from Pisgah to that game, and before the game started, he was like, man, this is fixing to get ugly. And, of course, I wasn't going to sit there and, say, yeah, you're probably right. I was like, no, you just wait. It'll be a ball game. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking that, it's probably fixing to get ugly. Just looking at the teams eye test wise. But that game sticks out to me, and another one that sticks out along those same years where if you just look at the teams, you think we don't have a chance, and that was the 10-7 game at East Limestone.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, too.
I tell you, a funny story about the Lawrence County game. We knew they was good. We'd already seen them on film against other people. And so Coach Rogers and Red have been going and scouting them for like 3 weeks in a row. And so we come in on that Sunday afternoon and we was going to meet. We were all, we knew we had to win that game. And so we met at 2 o'clock, but at 12:30 we was all there. Everybody was already there. We had met that morning, early that morning, like at 8. Broke down some film. Me and Coach Pete, maybe Coach Schrader too, broke down some film. Then we come back after church was over so we could start studying the film rather than have to watch and write the plays. And Coach Rogers come in, and his standard answer when you'd ask them how good they were, well, they're pretty good, but if we play, we got a chance. So Coach Rogers come in that Sunday, and the lights was off back here in the film room. Pete had the clicker watching the film. Pete didn't cuss. He just didn't cuss. And so Rodney comes in and, Rodney, how good you think they are? Well, they ain't very good. Pete gets stopped, pause or something on that butt, gets up out of the chair because he's sitting at the front of the table. And he walks back to where the light switch is, and he flipped the switch on and he said, Rodney, what damn team have you been watching play? They got 5 guys that run 4-4, and they ain't very good. Are you crazy? And then Rodney never said a word. And then you turn the film on and watch them, and it's like, Rodney, don't go back and watch anybody else.
They were unreal.
They were phenomenal, and they were big. They was big up front, but they really did. They had 5 guys that could run 4-4. They were, and they spread you out. I think Josh got 2 or 3 penalties right at the end of the game. The last possession, we're trying to hold them out of the game, hold them out of the end zone. And Josh is playing linebacker. Well, he's in for coverage purposes. And he's doing what he's – because of his speed.
Appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, so he's out there, and he's doing what he's supposed to, and he don't even touch the guy. 2 plays in a row, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. They call pass interference on him. And he ain't even close. It's not – it ain't even close. And so they get extra shots going into the end zone.
They had like 9 or 10 plays there from the 15-yard line to score, and we held them out. It was just –
and I guess you had to be there when Pete got up and walked to that light switch and turned that light switch on and looked at Rodney because, Pete never did cuss. And when he started cussing, it was like, yeah.
If he said one
this is going to be a good week.
That may have been the first one he said, but it wasn't the last one because that same year at East Limestone, he might have said his second one when the night that he kicked Reggie Stewart's shoulder pad when I didn't cover the guy out of the flats. As a sophomore,
yep.
I didn't cover the guy out of the flats. They scored a touchdown right before half. We go in at halftime. We're in the gym, their old gym at East Limestone. And Reggie takes his shoulder pads off and Reggie was a smaller guy. He had a small set of shoulder pads. And Coach, I knew it was coming. It was one of those deals where it's like, when your dad tells you you're getting a whooping when you get home. And that was the kind of trip to the gym it was for me. I'm like, oh, my God, this is going to be so bad. And he's pacing back and forth in front of Reggie's shoulder pads, and he hauls off and just starts screaming and kicks Reggie's shoulder pads. And there's no one that can kick a pair of shoulder pads this far. And he just goes nuts on me. And, it was – I got a few good cheers. I feel like they were all by him. And then the thing is, when Coach Peak started chewing, then people like Coach Houston and Coach Frater, they just pile on, it was.
We affectionately called it surround sound.
Yeah. But it was 100% my fault. But then they made me a better player for it. But
I think that's the night that we got 2 or 3 delayed game penalties before the game ever started.
It was
because Rose wouldn't let us come out.
That was East Limestone.
Yeah, that's what he's talking about.
I remember that.
He wouldn't let us come out of the locker room. The officials come in there about 3 times, and the last time he came in there, he got blistered. That
I
poor
want to
Fisher
say
got
he,
hit.
I wanna say he done that at 02.
He did. He did it. No, he did it both years. He did.
One year you down there played.
Yeah, he did it both years.
Yeah.
It was just the
Okay.
craziest thing I did. I remember the first year we did it. It was our first time over there, and
That was your senior year, correct?
my first time over there was my sophomore year.
Okay.
And that's when they kicked my shoulder pads. We end up we won that game. I think 24-19 or something.
I don't think we got beat by them but one time. The whole time
Yeah.
we played, I believe.
My senior year.
Was it?
Way to go.
Yeah.
That's when that quarterback, that little number 10, he threw a 70-something yard touchdown
The
pass.
only play they had.
Yes, from
the whole
from
game.
the right hash to the left corner of the end zone from about the 40-yard line on
Yeah.
their own
Hail
40-yard
Mary.
line. Yeah,
Hail Mary.
and beat us like
Those were
that.
some-
We we got beat 14-6, which was down 7-6 late in the fourth, trying to throw it through a pick six, but pretty much that's the only play we gave up was that
Really?
bomb.
Yeah, that's right.
That's it.
That's when all they didn't carry but about 5 times.
Yeah.
His.
We fumbled a couple times in the red zone, missed a field goal. I think
I think that's the night that
we was like 3 touchdowns better than him.
is that the night we're playing and the guy gets sick, the offensive tackle gets sick, and it's the ball's on the hash mark to our field, to our sideline, and the guy's puking through his helmet, and Cottrell's lined up right in front of him. And Cottrell's,
Yeah.
he starts
That's
looking to
it.
the sideline and saying, "Coach, what I do is it hit him? Hit him!"
That's it. I hate to even bring this up because I can see it and it's making my stomach turn. Cody Sparkman got hit in the back with a punt
Yes.
Yes.
late in the game after we
remember
stopped
that.
him.
Yep.
And I remember it's like from me to the camera, seeing it hit him in the back and them jumping on it, and I just went to my knees because we stopped them again, but we got the ball maybe less than a minute.
Yeah, we didn't have enough time. to
Yeah.
That
do
was the
anything.
thing about those games, for the longest. There was a stretch there that those games were. I mean, if you made a mistake in that game, you were going to get beat.
Oh, it was us and them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was so fun. So I mean, the atmospheres were always just.
Might have
just
been the game
perfect.
we had all the penalties. I remember, was that Jason Johnson and Daniel Guess?
That was the first year.
That
we
was
went over
Rose's
there.
first year here.
Jason Johnson and Daniel Guess killed him that year. I remember that one year, the tight ends were huge that night,
Mm.
which was rare because we ever featured a.
Well, I think they were
Passing
good
game
in that
and throwing.
Scottsboro game that
Yeah.
first year.
I remember
Yeah.
the East Limestone game. We leaned on them hard, and they played a hell of a game.
I think tight end wise, them two was really a good duo back. I felt like they kind of flew under the radar, but you mentioned that game, and then that Scottsboro game that first year,
Mhm.
Rose come in. I think there wasn't a whole lot of expectation. That tight ends
They were really
They were
good
big.
too, and
Yeah,
it wasn't just like we had. We were going to run 2 tights, no matter how good those 2 guys were. That's just what he was going to do.
Yeah,
But those guys ended up being really, really good.
Yeah.
And they were tough.
Talking about halftimes and kicking stuff and going crazy. Ryan, you remember getting fired at halftime off the punt team? You think?
They said I'm firing everybody.
Raise your hand if you're on the punt team.
They said, "Oh, y'all."
You're all fucking fired! Do you remember that song?
Yes.
They got up there and started, give me a new punt team! It's like, damn, we just got fired. You remember how many of us got laid out on that punt return? I remember me and you side by side, Macklemore.
Jersey rolled up, shield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got laid out and got to my knees and looked, you was getting up. I was like, damn, they got 3 or 4 of us. Right down the sideline.
We was getting that 21-0 at halftime.
Yeah.
Carlton come back, scored all touchdowns. Is that right?
I can't remember who
no,
scored a touchdown.
Savanas had a pick 6.
Okay.
Carlton did have a long run, and he may have had another touchdown, but I remember Savanas having a pick 6.
Okay.
Carlton took over, though.
Yeah, Carlton took the game over.
That was
took
the
it over.
game when everybody was like, oh, shit.
That was
these guys-
96.
But I can remember going in at the half. We're down. We'd won the first 2 games. It was 31-0. We beat Etowah, and 24-0. I think is what we beat McCauley. Hadn't been scored on, and all of a sudden we're down 21-0. And I remember we're sitting there, and it's quiet. We ain't used to that. And I can remember Doug Clark saying, "We ain't leaving here without a win."
Yeah.
And it wasn't just like, "Hey y'all, let's go." It's like, we ain't leaving without a win. I'm sitting there thinking, I don't know. That Macklemore kid's pretty dang good, but sure enough, we ended up pulling it out.
What do you remember about the 96 North Jackson Scottsboro game?
I was going to say that's probably one of the best high school football games I may have ever witnessed.
That's probably two of the deepest lineups that I can remember as far as if you say, okay, let's pick the star. Who's the star players on Scottsboro?
Yeah.
That list,
you
went way down the list. I mean, Zach Cope was pretty damn good.
Yes, he was.
He was way down the list for the guys they had on that side.
He was the same grade. He was a sophomore like you guys, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a year ahead of us.
I can remember Coach Lally telling us when we played him, he'd be like, he'd say, it's cold tonight, guys. Old Holt's knee's going to be bothering me. I remember he'd always tell us.
But if you remember in '96, that was an area game.
Yeah.
It had a little bit more meaning to it than it.
Both in the top 5.
We was like 1 and 2, weren't we?
Yeah, we were both in the top 5.
I just remember when the first time when we scored, and I don't remember if I was on the press box. I've seen it from the video or whatever. I just remember it being so loud when we scored. And you can go back and watch the film. When we scored, the camera starts shaking because the press box is shaking because it was so loud in there.
Wasn't that the game that Brent came to?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. My cousin Brent came. He's from South Pittsburgh. He'd come in and he wasn't. I don't think he was teaching yet. I think he's still in college. But, Jeff talked about, I think, early on in one of these episodes, we came out for early people for warm-ups. You come out and you make the big circle. Well, they had to open us a walkway to get to the field. And I remember this side over here just yelling at us, telling us all kinds of obscene things. And then we got this other side over here, which is Chiefs. They're patting us on the shoulder. We come out, and I just remember making that big circle, and you're running around, and you look, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is huge. And then my cousin Brent comes, he sits up there with Owen and them, and he told them, he said, man, I've been to high school football games. He said, this is on a different level. He said, we had to park down here by that white church, like down the road. He said, we had to walk a long ways to get here. He said, I knew we was in for something. But like you talked about, all the headline players, every bit of that game lived up to the billing.
Oh, yeah.
The build-up of that game was huge. Wellington, Griffin, Tremu, all them guys, Zach Holden. I really feel like every kid.
And Carlton was banged up.
Yeah, Carlton was banged up.
Yeah.
I mean, our guys showed up and they played too. But it was so built up, but everybody lived up to it. And this is just kind of a side bit here that I got thinking about. And I wanted to ask Coach Holloway here. 4 years, we go from 9th grade to 12th grade. I felt like during my time, Zach Holt might have been one of the most respected kids on the other team from Lolly. Like, I felt like he really liked that kid.
He did.
Mm-hmm.
He did.
He bragged on him.
Yeah.
My sophomore, junior year, I'm on the scout team. Of course, I'm not worth a flip, but like I was Zach. I got to be Zach for like 2 or 3 weeks out of my life. So it was fun just thinking about that. Yeah, Coach Lolly would get to watching film. He'd talk about him, and you just tell there was something different about Zach.
Zach played at a different. I mean, he just played at a different. When you watch him on film, Zach never let up any.
No,
and that's what taught you. And I was still learning how to be a coach at that time in '96 because I hadn't been doing it very long. But there was something about him that just stood out on the film. He wasn't that great of an athlete when you talk about great athletes that he was playing with the ones you mentioned. But there was something about Zach that just made him stand out.
He had the grit.
He was a ball player.
He was just just greedy and he was tough.
Played early on some good teams and in some big games too.
I remember Carlton hitting him on that fake punt.
Oh God!
And he wound up underneath the fence on the visitor side. Half his body was laying out on the track. And Carlton, when we finally got him separated, and Carlton got back over there and he kind of got calmed down. We was talking. Carlton told us that the whole time Zach was laying under that fence trying to get out, he was saying, "We'll see you in the playoffs. We're going to see you in the playoffs." So it told me a lot about Zach with him. He got the piss knocked out of him, but he's still ready to go. He was tough and ready to go again.
You remember when Carlton hit Tremu on that option? I want to say it was like a counter option. He turned when he did. He hit Tremu in the back. I mean, it looked like his head touched his butt pads. How hard he hit him, but there was some licks passing that game.
There were some athletes on the field that night.
We talk about the what ifs all the time. Tremu played with you all through Little League. Could have very easily been a Chief.
In my eyes, he one of the best ever come through.
He was there for a few days.
Man, you imagine if he'd have stayed played here.
He was awesome. He really was.
You had him and Deidre on the same.
Yeah. You know, it was fun to coach against Scottsboro in those days too, because they knew what we were going to do, and when you played Scottsboro in that time, it was about what we did defensively versus what Scottsboro did offensively. Scottsboro's defensive at the time, they didn't do a whole lot of stuff with their defense. I mean, it was pretty set. They're going to do the same thing all the time. And our offense was pretty set. We was going to do the same thing all the time, but there was always a wrinkle. And the cat and mouse game playing against Scottsboro at that time was what was so fun. Because it might be something as simple as, you know, they always lined up with a tight end and a wing on the same side. And it was always to the right. Every time. It might be that one time the tight end releases out and the wing comes under. Or it might be that they both release out. What was really bad is when the tight end and wing both released outside. Well, now you got the defensive end's got to step with that tight end. You got both of those guys staying, so you're getting a stress call from the safety. So the safety's bailing. Now the corner's bailing. You got nobody to pitch. And so just trying to make those adjustments against just a simple something is that. Because there was no way. I mean, we had some good players that played defensive end, but we couldn't tackle Tribune. I'm sorry. He was too good for us to tackle. We might could tackle, I think the fullback was Gary Griffith.
Yeah.
We could tackle Gary if we could get close to him. We might hang on until somebody else helped him. That's how good he was. But there was no way we could play in space against Tribune. You know, so now they got us in a disadvantage. But, you know, just little things like that is what made it so fun, trying to figure out
I tell you, it was a shame, too, talking about Tribune. He had a little brother, you know, that passed away. He played against Kane in Little League.
I didn't know he passed away.
Yeah. The little one. I'm not talking about Sam. They had another one. I can't remember his name.
He used to come.
But he was
a little
Kane's
kid. He do workouts.
He sure did.
Yeah.
But this kid was. It
I
was
could
like
see him,
watching
but
a
I could
miniature.
See the one that down around Hollywood?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I remember that.
He liked the jaw.
Yeah.
You know, Kane was quick. I think everybody in here was saying Kane. He's pretty dang quick. It was something to see this kid. Now, people was like, again, I remember watching the game in Little League, and he said, man, that kid's quick. I said, you don't remember his big brother? He said, big brother was pretty quick, too, and it was just like watching him out there.
I remember Tribune coming up our sidelines after the game. They beat us down there, pounding his chest. That was me. I'm like, yeah, it was. Also in that game, I caught a pass in that game down the sideline, about an 18-yard game. Robert Fanning and Will Bradford knocked me out of bounds. When they hit me, my jaw locked out with my mouth open. I get up and I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. I didn't know what to do. I was panicking. So I went to Schrader. He was on the sideline and I said, jaw. He goes, put your tongue in the back of your mouth. I said, what? By the time I said what, he went, punched me right there in the chin. I said, oh, he said, get back in the game. I was like, and then I got out there, I was like, God dang, he didn't give me time. If I told him, then I don't bit my tongue clean off. Punch me square off.
Home remedies, baby. Home remedies.
We've talked a few times about our trainers, you know. Are you hurt or injured? Well, damn, hell, I don't know. Let me make a phone call. I'm not sure. If you don't know the answer, I guess your ass doesn't get up on football.
This